All right, my favorite portion of the weekend, the Warrior Games.
Yep, mine too.
What are we doing here? Why are we having the Warrior Games?
Yeah, so the Warrior Games are designed specifically to get men not just in competition, but in contact. Contact is so crucial for a man to get in. We used to do that in sports. Now most of us have careers that we're not really engaged in contact. Even if you're in construction or something, your biggest contact is a board.
Yeah. Even if you're going to the gym, right? You're pushing weights. There's not physical contact in a gym.
So physical contact, it's man on man, right? Until only one remains, right? And the importance of this, we quote this all the time, comes out of kind of the summary of warfare in the Battle of Thermopylae, right? And it's the 300 quote these Spartans who are training that it is the war and the preparation of war that purge out of a man all that is ignoble. Every vice and everything that keeps a man from being all that he could be, that is eradicated in the crucible and in the mill of warfare. And so we call men to engage in warfare because this life, and from a Christian worldview, you are at war. And most men don't live their life with that mentality.
Right.
And also most men don't actually have, unless you're in law enforcement or in the military, where you are engaged in contact. And Mike Tyson has this famous quote, like, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. But man, what would it be like if you actually did get punched in the face and you had a plan?
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I tell people, like, you give me a man, and I say this all the time, you give me a man and let me go train him in self-defense, right? Boxing, Krav Maga, Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, whatever. Let me have him for 6 months and let me put it, and we're going to spar weekly, right? He'll be a better man. I say it every day. And I don't even know if I know the why, right? But he just is, right? And and I always say this.
Which one thing that comes out of that?
Man, just the constant conflict, right? Of getting, like you're saying, getting punched in the face and recognizing that, like, hey, I can deal with this. I can handle this. Like, I can rise above this. It's not as bad as I thought it was, right? And I always say this: men that beat their wives are not those people usually, right? They're insecure men.
Men that beat their wives are always weak men.
That's right. There's a security that is developed in a man, and I think this is probably what it is. When I do that with them, it gives them a confidence that now when they go out, they're like, I can take care of it. I think there's always this kind of subtle insecurity in men as they walk about with their wives and children in the culture that we're in today. And it's kind of this subtle insecurity of, like, man, like, I hope nothing happens because I don't know what I would do if it did. I hope, like, well, I don't know. How would I respond? How would I react? Like, I just don't want it to happen. Lord, just don't let it happen, right?
Yeah.
And I remember talking to Matt. Me and Matt were saying one time, I was like, I literally have trained for the last 13 years of my life because I'm like, I hope it happens. That's probably not, like, I'm looking at the gas station for the man that's, like, disrespecting his wife, and I'm like, okay, like that's like. But my point is, and I'm not, like, in this kind of, like, weird way, like, wanting to fight. That's not my point. But my biggest fear, and this is why I started martial arts to begin with at 19 years old, my biggest fear is not only with me and my family, but just any kind of injustice happening of my sphere of influence. Like, if I'm in an area and I have my sphere of influence there, if something happens and I can't do anything about it, and injustice is happening in my presence, right? That is for me, that is a problem, right? And whether I get my ass kicked or not, I'm going to engage.
Yeah, so we've talked about this often. Jesus, he calls us to turn the other cheek, right? But can you turn the other cheek if you don't have the power to? Right? So mercy only exists, grace only exists if you have the power to do something about it. So if you don't have the skill set to stop injustice, you're not mercifully allowing injustice.
A lot of people using that turn the other cheek out of fear and cowardliness, not out of strength.
Absolutely.
Right?
So when you look at someone who has trained their lives, you'll hear Tim Kennedy talk about this, special ops retired operator. He says the nicest guys that you'll ever meet are those who know how to kill a man in 1,000 different ways. And because there's no showboating, they don't have
don't
have to puff up, they don't have to act big and tall and strong, because the confidence that you're talking about. And so what we want to do in the Warrior Games is we want to insert back into a man's life that is not engaged in any of those martial arts that you talked about, contact, so that he can then get a flavor of like, I think I need more of this in my life. Maybe I should sign up for a contact sport.
You should.
Right? And how do I continually engage that in my life, so that when the bump at the night happens and they come and you don't know when they come, you're not freaking out, but you're leading your family with the confidence of man who knows what to do.
Two things. Number one, if you're well trained, as Daniel was talking about, you're going to be way more self-controlled in those situations. Right. Most men that frantically jump into fights quickly or start throwing things or whatever, they're not well trained, right? Because a confident man can calm things. He can create peace, right? He can be like, "Hey, man, look, let's pause, look, cool, slow down, cool off, right? This doesn't have to happen." You know why you can do that? Because you're confident. You're not fearful. Your back's not. You know what you could do in that moment, right? You know you could kill this guy. So you're trying not to because you don't want to, right? A confident person doesn't want to engage that way. So I'll say that. So the more well-trained you are, the more self-controlled you're going to become, the more confident you're going to become, the more the less insecure you're going to become. My son, my nephew. I'll tell you a story of my nephew and my dad. This is a beautiful story, right? And so when my nephew was like 6 or 7, he was at school and there was a bully and he was picking on him, and he didn't engage, right? The kid much bigger than him, but he didn't fight him. He came home and my dad heard about it, so my dad pulls him out on the front porch and they're out there talking, and he says, "Finn, come here." And he comes over there and he goes, "So I heard about this bully." He's like, "How do you feel about the other day about that whole thing and you not fighting back?" He's like, "I feel terrible." He's like, "It's interesting, right?" He goes, "Now I want you to do something for me." And Finn said, "What?" He said, "Hit me as hard as you can right there." And he's like, "No, Papa." He's like, no, hit me as hard as you can right there in the mouth." And Finn hits him. He goes, no, rear back and hit me as hard as you can right there in the mouth. And so Finn goes, whack! And he had a little blood come down his lip, and he looked right at him and he goes, "Did that hurt?" "Yeah, but it'll be over in a minute."
Yeah.
He goes,
Amen.
"But what
Amen.
you feel
Amen.
inside,
Yes.
you're going to live a lifetime with that."
Dude.
And
Amen.
that's what men are living with every day of their life.
Yes.
That shame, that insecurity, and you have to get past that. And that is the point of the Warrior Games.
Well, that's the point of the entire Caveman Combine.
Yeah.
That we create these carefully crafted caves to hide out in. And we do so because conflict is uncomfortable. And so I'll engage in conflict if in any arena that I'm competent in. And you see men do this all the time. And so they'll stay in the area of their competency and avoid any area that they're incompetent. So you can even see that. I mean, there are insecure men that can rip you to shreds. Right? So it's not just about contact sport, right? The whole point of the Caveman is to draw you out of your cave of comfort, whether that's contact sports, you're a badass in the. I have this conversation with my brother all the time. He knows men that are more highly, special ops community, more highly trained than you and I could ever possibly imagine. Really crappy dads, really crappy husbands, because they take everything that they make and they use it to prop themselves up rather than to serve the people that they're surrounded. And that's really, really sad. And so what we want to do is we want to give men an opportunity to see what area of my life am I hiding in, so that I can, in the community of other men, be drawn out and built up rather than remain in my shame and condemnation.
And let me tell you this: if you're a man out there and you're like, "Man, I cannot do those things, like that would just wear me out." Guess what? That's that guy that's a badass, special forces, martial arts, whatever. That guy may need you. Your strengths may be his weaknesses. His strengths may be your weaknesses, which is the point of the Caveman Combine. It's a group of men that all are coming together. Can't do life alone. We're all coming together. We all have strengths. We all have weaknesses. And guess what? If you create this kind of sphere of the same type of man, they're always going to be strong where they're strong and weak where they're weak. But if you create this sphere where all men are coming and together and sharing each other's weaknesses and strengths, then I might leave the combine and I might go, hey, you are not the type of guy that I would necessarily hang out with, but you're the type of guy I need to hang out with.
Amen.
That's two different things, right? The type of guy I would hang out with is not always the type of guy I need to hang out with. And so that's the goal, is to bring this community together so everyone can leave and understand these things and know who it is they need to be a part of their life the next year. And you know what? The next year, you come back stronger. And then you might need another man in your life for the next year, right?
Absolutely.
And that's kind of the goal.